Good morning, everybody. Mestre Sucuri coming to you from Tokyo, Japan. Mestre Vibes, episode 106. If I could tell you on this beautiful Saturday morning in Tokyo how I feel inspired, blessed, overcome with emotion after yesterday. I always like to say that I'm the most successful and happy mestre that I know, professional mestre. And what I woke up to today feeling is something I'd like to share with all of you because it's all part of the process. My job isn't just to teach capoeira, it is to inspire, to lead in what I do, to be able to share the art, the culture, the passion, the philosophy, the spirituality that I consider part of my path on capoeira and what I do. And I'm hoping that after this podcast today, all of you could be more close, more part of this amazing journey that I've been blessed to be on. I had a very special request from a friend of mine, and the request was to show the process of what it took to write Vivência, the lived wisdom of a Capoeira Mestre, a guide to being a successful and happy mestre or mestra. What I'm going to do first is get into the process that it took to just get the book into everybody's hands. Because a lot of times people don't understand how much work goes into a book. And it's natural because if you haven't done something like this, it's difficult to know what it takes. But because of this request to break it down, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to share with all of you what the process was. So let's get right into it. If I were to measure the process of writing this book, I would have to think in long terms as yesterday the book was launched, but it wasn't launched just in one day. There was a large and long and deep process to write this book. It doesn't happen overnight. And all of these experiences and stories and everything, I had to first put in my head and mix it up and think about how I want to do things and how I want things to be clear, concise, and in order to be able to not only tell a story, but to create a guide for people who want to use this as a reflection. The other day, I had a really good opportunity to be on Mestre Boagente's podcast in Brazil, about an hour and a half in Portuguese, and on Mestre Sabará, TV Sabará podcast yesterday. And both of them were incredibly amazing experiences and allowed me to communicate to the Portuguese-speaking community what the process is. And once all of this was done, and yesterday was done, I decided to sit down, have a cup of coffee, and relax. But that's when the emails started coming. People were sending me emails. Gregorio in Germany, big hug. Thank you for picking up the book right away. I saw that when you sent the email and that when you picked up the book was basically when you woke up. Thank you. Big shout out to Adam, constant inspiration. Before I jump into the book process, I just want to say big shout out to Adam. Adam and I met in Tokyo in 2009, and we just started chatting at a bar. He was with his group of friends visiting from Australia. I was with some friends, and we hit it off. And ever since then, even before I started doing, he's a longtime original supporter of Patreon and everything I do outside of teaching capoeira in my academia. but he's someone who has an understanding that to create, to add to the community, to do things that I do, there's a extra support that I need. And he's been there ever since the first day and has all the event t-shirts and everything. Adam, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I love you, mate. So let's jump into what it takes to make a book, to write a book and to publish it. No, let's say to produce a book. First of all, remember, keep in mind, the book was produced in English, Portuguese, and Japanese. And this is part of the process. So at least it took about 800 hours of work to write this book. 800 hours. That's about four to 6 months of work outside of my regular job, outside of my regular responsibilities and the things that I do. It's about 10 to 20 hours a week just writing and drafting. I would say I put about 15 to 20 hours a week in writing this book, because it's not just you sit down and write, you sit down and you have to organize the long-term vision of the book and each chapter, how you want them to connect, put them together, and how they lead into the end of the book. The process for writing, for me, has always been something really interesting. I tend to juggle everything in my head, and then when I'm ready, I sit down and it all comes out at one time. So the writing process, actual typing, the first draft, probably took about 2 weeks, but notes, writing down, thinking in my head, probably took about 3 or 4 years. I know that sounds strange, but just that's how my brain works. I think about what I want to write. I think about how I want to present it. And then it all, for some reason, at the end of the day, just comes together and I'm able to put this out. The editing and revisions, the translations took at least 2 to 3 weeks just to get the basic translations done. Then my amazing wife had to spend at least 2 months when she has time, because remember, she does everything else too. Helps me run the academia and everything. Not to mention, she has so many things on her plate. She's just so amazing. She put so much work and love into translating this book and editing this book. And I remember one time she actually said, like she started tearing and she said she could really feel the passion that I have in writing this book and the love and the passion that I feel for capoeira. And for me, that made the process worth it. That my wife was able to read in her own natural language and really feel that I could transmit the energy of this thing called capoeira, this thing that I love so much, this deep, emotional, philosophical, spiritual feeling that I have. And sometimes I feel like I'm going to explode because I feel so blessed to be part of this profound capoeira experience. Her translations and editing. The translations took about, I would say, let's give it a month. Then the editing took about 2 months. She went over the book maybe about 6 or 7 times. Because I remember how many times I said, like, okay, I went over it. Wait a minute, I want to go over it again. My wife put so much time into this so that we can have capoeira information in Japanese, especially about capoeira philosophy, leadership, spirituality, everything that goes into the character building and growth of a capoeirista. I am so happy and grateful that she's not only my life partner, but the person walking along hand in hand on this path. Design, format, book cover. Guys, to decide the book cover took about just the idea of which way to take the picture. Took days. I went there. I actually had done several different pictures. You know what I'll do? I'll put those pictures on my Patreon for behind the scenes. I took a lot of pictures holding the beating bow this way, holding the beating bow that way, crouching, just trying to make a very cool picture. And at the end, the simple one's the best one that transmits my energy and my positivity and deep respect for my art. Just getting the cover. Oh my God, there's so much involved. We had to set up the KDP, which is the Kindle Direct Publishing, on the Amazon.com for the English and the Portuguese versions. And my wife had to set up the Japanese version on Japanese KDP. If you've done this a million times, it's easy. It's actually pretty easy after you've done it a few times, but it's so detailed and meticulous. And so it's a publishing contract between myself and Amazon. You have to upload the manuscript in the correct format, 6 inches by 9 inches, in a PDF file. And for people who are IT savvy or people who do this kind of stuff, it must be easy. But for me, my wife, it took a lot of work. We had to recheck how to do everything so many times. We uploaded the Japanese manuscript, and because it was originally done on my computer, which is English, then we had to figure out how to format it in Japanese so that the KDP in Japan would take the file as a Japanese file. And then each book, because of the language, the cover had to be a different specification of each book. If you have all 3 books, you're going to notice the covers are all a little different, like little differences, only because each one had to be a different size cover because of the amount of pages in it. So I had to redo and re-upload and re-download, and I used my software, and it helped a lot, but it was a lot of work. Choosing the script, choosing the text font took so much. Choosing how to do things, and my beautiful wife just came in with a snack for me. And choosing the font and choosing the text took hours. As I'm sitting here making this podcast, I can't believe how much, I think I'm having a little bit of post-writer's trauma. As I'm going through this, I'm realizing how much it actually takes to do. Getting it final print ready for KDP, that alone took 3-4 weeks. We had to order from America these sample copies. That took about 3 weeks just to wait for the book to come so we can do the final proof with the book in hand. Then we had to order the books. I'm still waiting for the books to come from Amazon.com from the United States. They should be shipped out soon. We'll have some of the English, Portuguese paperbacks and Japanese for my event next month on the 15th. So if you're in Japan, in Tokyo, please come towards that event, because it means a lot to me that people come out and support what I do. The book, again, was printed in 3 languages. So each process of the book had to be done. In a way, the writing part in English, the first part, was done, but then we had to basically rewrite, re-edit, translate, format, and go through the whole process so that we can do the book in English, Japanese, and Portuguese. On Mestre Sabara's podcast the other day, he asked me, why did you print the book in 3 languages? And I said, first, because I live in Japan and most of my students here are Japanese, and it would be unfair of me not to write this book for the people that I love. Big shout out to everybody who's a Japanese member of my academia, the parents, everybody. And I wanted to make sure that they had access to good, well, I hope it's good capoeira information. Secondly, I did it in Portuguese because as a mastery, I feel obligated in a positive way. Let's say I feel lucky that I'm able to do this, and I want to be able to add to the professional level of capoeira material that's out there in Portuguese. Because in Brazil, as I've mentioned, teaching capoeira is one of the avenues for getting out of poverty for a lot of people in Brazil. So I'm hoping that this adds to the pool of knowledge and information in Portuguese. And of course, I did it in English because it's my language of communication around the world. So many people can read in English. Tech manuals, engineering manuals are all in English. So I wanted to be able to put something out there that would reach the larger audience that doesn't speak Portuguese or Japanese. So regardless of what language you speak, I hope one of them suits you and that you're able to read the book, support, and get things done. After all of that, just to get to yesterday, all of last week, I made videos. I record the videos speaking about a passage from the book. Then I had to take it into my computer so that I could add translations in Portuguese and English. That alone takes 30, 40 hours just for 5 videos for a 5-day walk-up, 7-day walk-up until the release of the book. Networking, communications, I sent out so many emails to so many people, so many masters asking them for their kindness to please promote the book, please share with your students. If we don't, I live by the very simple words. If we don't support each other, who will? In Portuguese, I always say, if we don't help each other, who will? So I hope that a lot of people are out there looking at this and putting it out there and helping me to validate, to recover, to get the value in return for this book, because it's really a lot of work. If I look back, really, it must have taken about 1,000 hours now that I think about it. If we were to do the basic calculation of work just on my part, not including my wife's work, if I were to teach English in Japan, before taxes, if I'm lucky, I can make about 2,500 yen, which is about $18, $19 an hour teaching English. If I were to do that just for 1,000 hours, I would say the book cost hours-wise already goes into about 2,500,000 yen, which is about $16,000. Yeah, that's why people have publishing companies. That's why people have sponsors and all these different things, because it's a lot of work. And that's, again, outside of all my regular jobs as a master, father, husband, community member, and everything else I do. I must spend at least 30 minutes a day cleaning the academia. But I'm not complaining. Maybe my voice sounds a little heavy, but it's because it's more like, wow, I got this done. And I really want to say thank you, because this book is completely 100% sponsored by my Patreon community. Of course, I also put my own time and energy into it, but none of these things, everything that I use, including the new computer I had to buy a couple years ago, including the subscription fees for design. I use Kindle, in case somebody's wondering. I pay monthly for ChatGPT. I pay monthly for CapCut so that I can do all the translations. But every time I sit down and make a video, I have to go through it A lot of times when I write capoeira, the translation will say cup of water. I'm the one who goes through there each one. I know it's not perfect, but I'm trying because I feel so lucky that I'm able to put out all this information and all this background on this beautiful, exotic, and amazing art that I love that I call capoeira. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. As always, if you're interested in being part of all of the different things I do, yes, I'm working on my next book project already. If I can get a little bit more Patreon members, then maybe I will start. My dream is to take the thesis I wrote in Waseda in Japan, which is about the globalization and importation of Brazilian cultural arts into Japan, and combining that with my gaijin sake work, put that all together and write a book. And the title's already there. I actually have the first manuscript done. That was another 6 months of writing. And it's called Brazilian Beats, Asian Streets. Let's do this. If I can get my Patreon subscription up, I can't think about what would be a good line, but I'm already the #1 capoeira Patreon platform or group or whatever they call it. But if I can get that doubled, I'll start even producing more. That wouldn't be so much, actually. If we had about 50 people at $20 or $25 a month, I'd be putting out so much. Guys, for the current Patreon people, thank you so much. Without you, I wouldn't have had the inspiration, support, or drive to do this. You guys mean so much to me. Every single one of you. I love you all. Thank you for joining me today. Mestre Vibes, Mestre Sucuri, Tokyo, Japan. Lots of love, lots of peace, and lots of capoeira.